In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 NHL games happening on March 9th, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 NHL games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Los Angeles Kings versus Columbus Blue Jackets. The Los Angeles Kings head to Columbus to face the Blue Jackets on Monday at Nationwide Arena. This game is the makeup date after a blizzard on January 26th forced the original meeting to be postponed. Columbus enters with 73 points and a season record of 32-21-9. Against the spread, the Blue Jackets sit at 32-30, and their totals results are split at 29-29 between overs and unders. They have been reliable on home ice with a 17-8-6 mark in Columbus and a 15-13-3 record away from home, good for 4th place in the Metropolitan Division. Los Angeles comes in with 64 points and a record of 25-23-14, which looks a lot more uneven given the expectations around this roster. The Kings are just 22-40 against the spread, and their totals sit at 28-33 for over and under results. They have struggled badly at home with a 10-15-7 mark in Los Angeles, even though they have been more comfortable on the road at 15-8-7, and they are currently 6th in the Pacific Division. In the lone meeting earlier this season, the Blue Jackets went into Los Angeles and won by a score of 3-1. Before that, the Kings had controlled this matchup, going 6-2 in the previous 8 head-to-head games. Right now, though, Columbus has simply been the stronger team overall, especially in front of its own fans, and that shows up in pretty much every form chart you look at. The Blue Jackets have taken 7 wins in their last 10 games, a 7-3 run that speaks to both confidence and consistency. On the other side, the Kings have been playing better hockey on the road than at home, but even that has stalled lately with just 2 wins in their last 9 games, a 2-7 slide that points to some deeper issues. Part of the problem is that Los Angeles is sitting with the 4th worst offense in the league, which makes every mistake on the back end feel even heavier. Columbus comes into this rescheduled matchup having won 3 of its last 4 games, and it has put up at least 4 goals in 3 of those 4 outings. The Blue Jackets' home line still looks strong at 17-8-6, while the Kings' road mark of 15-8-7 shows that Los Angeles can travel but not quite control games the same way. The Kings have been alternating wins and losses across their past 5 games, and they have allowed 4 goals or more in 3 of those 5, which is not the kind of defensive profile you want when your own scoring shows up in fits and starts. They are also coming off a genuinely tough loss that felt like it slipped through their fingers, and that type of result can linger for a group that already feels streaky. Honestly, their scoring rhythm is so inconsistent right now that it is hard to trust them for a full 60 minutes, especially against a team that keeps finding ways to generate offense. Columbus has stacked up points in 16 of its past 18 games, going 14-2-2 in that stretch, which tells you how often this group is at least getting the game to a result that earns something. Over the last 5 games, the Jackets sit at 3-0-2, so they keep leaving the ice with something positive to show for the effort. By contrast, the Kings are just 2-6-1 across their last 9, which paints a much bleaker recent picture. On the road specifically, Los Angeles is 1-2-1 in its previous 4, so that earlier reputation as a strong travel team has cooled off. They have given up 3 or more goals in 3 straight games and in 7 of their past 8, surrendering an average of 4.2 goals per game over that 8-game span, which piles even more pressure on an attack that already feels underpowered. Pulling all of this together, the pattern points to Columbus as the steadier, sharper side right now, especially with the crowd behind it and the current gap in form between these 2 offenses. As our first pick for this matchup, the Columbus Blue Jackets money line is our full game side pick. On the scoring front, the Blue Jackets are averaging 3.15 goals per game and are converting 19.6% of their power play chances. Defensively, they are allowing 3.18 goals per game, and they are killing 77.2% of opposing power plays, which means their games tend to have plenty of flow and chances on both sides. The Kings' offense is sitting at 2.56 goals per game with a power play that connects on 16.8% of its opportunities. On the other side of the puck, Los Angeles gives up 2.90 goals per game and has a penalty kill running at 75.3%, numbers that still look decent on paper even if the recent trend feels much looser. Columbus has been playing in some lively scorelines lately, coming off that 5-4 overtime loss to the Utah Mammoth, the kind of game that never really slows down. The Jackets are on a run with at least 3 goals in 5 straight games and in 11 of their past 12, so their side of the scoreboard has been active almost every night. On the Kings side, the recent pattern has tilted toward higher totals as well, with Los Angeles giving up 3 or more goals in most of its recent games and struggling to clamp down for full games. The over has hit in 4 of the past 6 Kings outings, with 1 push in that span, which lines up neatly with those defensive lapses. These teams have already seen each other once this season at Crypto.com Arena on December 22, 2025, a game that Columbus won by a 3-1 score as a moderate underdog at plus 130 while the total stayed under 5.5. That first matchup leaned toward the under, but the way both teams are playing right now, with Columbus scoring in bunches and Los Angeles leaking chances, points more toward a game that opens up on the scoreboard. The rare Monday matinee setting in C-Bus can sometimes feel a little loose for players as routines shift away from the usual night schedule, and that kind of vibe often favors more offense than structure. Putting the recent numbers together, the expectation leans toward a contest where both teams contribute enough to push this total above the projected number. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. New York Rangers versus Philadelphia Flyers. The New York Rangers face the Philadelphia Flyers on Monday in NHL action at Xfinity Mobile Arena. The setting is familiar, but the momentum on each bench feels completely different right now. New York is coming off a loss to the Devils, a win against the Maple Leafs, and has the Flames on deck, which sounds manageable on paper. In reality, the Rangers have dropped 10 of their last 13 games, and that kind of skid wears on any locker room. Philadelphia just beat the Penguins, fell to the Mammoth, and has the Capitals next, so the schedule has not exactly been soft either. The Flyers have still managed to win 4 of their last 5 games, which gives them the kind of quiet confidence that shows up in the small details. The road team has taken each of the past 2 meetings in this matchup, including Philadelphia's 3-2 overtime win on February 26 at Madison Square Garden. New York was terrible at home for long stretches and very strong on the road early in the season, which made them a strange split team for bettors. Lately, the bottom has dropped out at every venue, with the Rangers going just 2-5-2 in their past 9 games and 3-12-3 in their past 18. The last time these teams met, Sam Carrick scored for the Rangers, but he has since been traded to the Buffalo Sabres, so that specific matchup wrinkle is gone. Matvei Michkov had a pair of goals for the Flyers in that game, one on the power play and the winner at even strength in overtime, which is exactly the sort of star turn that sticks in a team's memory. Philadelphia has shown a flair for tight finishes lately, going to overtime or a shootout in 5 of its past 9 outings and putting together a 4-1-0 record in the last 5. We have leaned on the Rangers a lot this season when they have been away from home, because that is where they once played their sharpest hockey. Right now, though, they are coming apart no matter where the puck drops, and that is hard to ignore. The Rangers are getting peppered defensively, spending long stretches in their own zone, and the season keeps feeling more and more like something that slipped away. The Flyers, meanwhile, have quietly stacked 4 wins in their last 5 games, including that overtime road victory in New York that still gives them a mental edge. It may end up being too late for a full playoff push, but a matchup like this is a gift to keep those slim hopes flickering for a group that has not quit. The price on the home side is reasonable enough that backing the hotter team with better recent form makes sense here. As our first pick for this matchup, the Philadelphia Flyers money line is our full game side pick. The New York Rangers are averaging 2.68 goals per game and are converting 22.2% of their power play opportunities. Defensively, they are giving up 3.19 goals per game and killing 78% of opposing power plays, which means their games often feel open but not wildly chaotic. The Philadelphia Flyers are averaging 2.81 goals per game and are scoring on 15.7% of their power play chances. On the defensive side, the Flyers allow 3.08 goals per game and have a penalty kill sitting at 79.5%, which is quietly solid and keeps things from turning into track meets too often. Those numbers together paint a picture of two offenses that are capable but not explosive, backed by defenses that bend but do not completely collapse every night. The special teams edge for New York on the man advantage is offset a bit by Philadelphia's slightly better penalty kill, so there is a bit of push and pull when whistles start flying. Most nights, that mix points to a scoring pace that stays contained unless something really wild happens early. Recent form adds a bit of tension, since streaks and slumps can nudge totals either way, but the underlying averages still lean toward modest score lines more often than not. With both attacks hovering in a similar range and neither blue line consistently forcing a run-and-gun tempo for 3 full periods, this matchup still shapes up as one where goals come, just not in overwhelming waves. Taken together, the profiles suggest a game that is more likely to settle into a tighter, lower-scoring rhythm than a full-on shootout. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Calgary Flames versus Washington Capitals. This matchup looks like one of those simple home favorite versus road underdog games you glance at and move past without a second thought. On the surface, Washington has the tidy record, sitting at 31-26-7, and Calgary has the more chaotic one at 25-30-7, so the story feels pretty straightforward when you first check the app on your phone. The thing is, how they got to those records actually matters quite a bit here. Washington is carrying that decent mark while riding into this game on a 3-game skid, and it is not a pretty one. They just took 3 straight regulation losses, falling in Boston, then at home against Utah, then getting thumped in Montreal, and they were outscored 12-5 along the way. That is the type of stretch that does not blow up a season, but it does rattle a room and make a coaching staff tighten the screws a little. Calgary is coming in from the opposite emotional angle. They finally broke out of their own funk with that wild 5-4 win over Carolina, the kind of back and forth game that feels like a full-body exhale for a team that has been grinding with not much to show for it. It was not perfect hockey, not even close, but it felt like fun again, and that matters more in March than we sometimes admit when we are staring at spreadsheets. Around all of that, the deadline atmosphere changes the personality of this matchup. Calgary has clearly leaned into a retool, shipping out a major veteran piece like Nazem Kadri and signaling that the long-term matters more than chasing a miracle run this spring. Washington, on the other hand, just moved a glue guy like Nick Dowd for future help, and that is the kind of move that sends a quiet message that the front office wants them to compete but is not exactly all in with this exact version of the roster. Those are small signals, but inside a locker room players feel that stuff, and you often see it show up as a looser, nothing-to-lose style from the team that already knows the long-term plan, and a slightly more careful, slightly more nervous style from the team trying to prove it is still for real. Then you look at the market behavior and the picture gets even more interesting. Most of the public tickets and a heavy chunk of the money are stacked on Washington, which makes sense because casual bettors love a home team with the nicer record and the bigger names. Calgary is sitting there as the road dog that nobody is exactly rushing to back, even though their overall performance against the number as an underdog has actually been very respectable, and Washington as a favorite has been more grind than automatic cover. In a league where 1-goal games are basically the default setting, getting the underdog with a cushion on the spread against a favorite that has shown cracks and just traded away a couple of steady veterans is exactly the sort of uncomfortable ticket that tends to age well by the final horn. As our first pick for this matchup, the Calgary Flames to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Books are treating it like a fairly tight, controlled game, which fits the old-school idea of Washington being a structured home team and Calgary being a limited offense that leans on work ethic more than highlight reels. Season averages tell a slightly different story when you look a little closer. Calgary is sitting at the very bottom of the league in goals scored per game, sitting in that mid-2-goal range, and giving up about 3 against on average. Washington is more balanced, with offense that lives in the low 3-goal area and defense that sits just under 3 against per night. Put that together and you land in a territory where a normal night looks like something in the high 5 to low 6 goal range anyway, so you are already hovering around a number that does not leave much margin for error. Recent form adds a little extra spice. Calgary's last handful of games has included that 9-goal track meet against Carolina, a couple of games that finished right around the typical number, and one true defensive rock fight. So even when the final scores look tame at first glance, they are living in that one bounce, one empty netter, one bad line change zone that can tilt the final total by a goal without warning. Washington's last stretch has felt similar, with one game that never sniffed a big number, one that clearly sailed past it, and a few that parked right on the knife's edge. For a bettor, that is the definition of living dangerously with a low total. Special teams and discipline throw in another wrinkle. Both teams spend a fair bit of time in the box, with Calgary already piling up north of 700 penalty minutes and Washington comfortably past the 500 mark. Neither power play is particularly sharp, both hovering in that mid-teen percentage range, but that can actually help an over rather than hurt it. You get more broken plays, more fatigue from penalty killers, more odd rushes when a power play flames out, and over 60 minutes that chaos tends to leak into the 5-on-5 flow too. Then there is the schedule spot, which feels very March hockey to the core. Both sides are playing their second game in 3 nights, with Calgary flying east after that emotional win and Washington coming home off a frustrating loss. Tired legs do not always mean bad goaltending, but they often mean slower backchecks, sloppy line changes, and late penalties when a defender grabs instead of skating. That is how you end up with those games where a sleepy first period suddenly turns into a wild second and third with traded goals and tired bodies. When you put all of that together, you get a matchup where the story the number is telling is calm and controlled, but the story the context is telling is volatile, swingy, and one mistake away from blowing past expectations. Given the way these two have been playing, the way the schedule sets up, and the kind of penalty-filled, emotionally charged rhythm that often shows up this time of year, it feels much more natural to cheer for goals than to hope both teams stay tidy for all 3 periods. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Utah Mammoth versus Chicago Blackhawks. The Utah Mammoth take on the Chicago Blackhawks on Monday in NHL action at the United Center. The stage is set for one team trying to secure a playoff spot and another just trying to stop the bleeding. The Mammoth are coming in on a high after beating the Blue Jackets and the Flyers, with the Wild waiting for them next on the schedule. They have won 6 of their last 8 games, and that kind of stretch usually brings a lighter mood to the bench and sharper focus in practice. The Blackhawks, on the other hand, are coming off losses to the Canucks and the Stars and then get the Mammoth next. They have dropped 11 of their last 13 games, which starts to feel less like a slump and more like a pattern. Chicago will be on the second half of a back-to-back after playing in Dallas on Sunday, and that game went all the way to overtime. That extra hockey and the travel attached to it should tilt the rest advantage toward the Mammoth, who had a cleaner lead up to this matchup. Utah enters this one riding a 3-game winning streak, and the timing is crucial as they are trying to hold on to one of the wild-card spots in the Western Conference. Games like this against a struggling team can feel like traps, but they are also the kind of nights playoff hopefuls simply have to handle. Defensively, the Mammoth have a strong identity, sitting as the 4th best defensive team in the league. They allow just 2.75 goals against per game, which keeps them in almost every contest, even when the offense is not firing on all cylinders. The Blackhawks, by contrast, are one of the weakest offensive groups right now, averaging 2.63 goals per game. They also average the fewest shots on goal in the league at 24.5 per game, which means long stretches where they are not really testing opposing goalies. With the way these two teams are trending, it is reasonable to expect the Mammoth to put together the sharper overall performance. They have elite talent at the top of their lineup, led by Clayton Keller, and outside of Connor Bedard, the Blackhawks do not have many players who can really match that kind of top-end punch. Honestly, when one team has that combination of defensive structure, recent form, and star power against a tired opponent, it usually tilts the matchup in a pretty clear direction. As our first pick for this matchup, the Utah Mammoth money line is our full game side pick. The Mammoth are averaging 3.19 goals per game, and they are converting 17.1% of their power play opportunities. That gives them a steady offensive base, even if it is not the flashiest power play in the league. Defensively, Utah is allowing 2.75 goals per game and killing 78.2% of their opponents' power plays. That mix of solid 5-on-5 defense and a respectable penalty kill tends to keep scores from completely getting out of hand. The Blackhawks are averaging 2.63 goals per game and are scoring on 19.2% of their power play chances. So while their overall offense is near the bottom, their man advantage has enough bite to chip in when they actually earn opportunities. On the defensive side, Chicago is allowing 3.17 goals per game and killing 85.3% of their opponents' power plays. That penalty kill number is impressive and can act as a safety net when they take penalties, which helps keep opponents from stacking goals with special teams alone. Putting those profiles together, you have one team with a strong defensive baseline and another that struggles to generate steady 5-on-5 pressure, even with a solid penalty kill in its back pocket. That usually points toward a game where clear chances are limited and long stretches are spent fighting for space rather than trading odd-man rushes. With both offenses sitting in a modest range and one blue line in particular lowering the ceiling on what opponents can do, this matchup shapes up more as a controlled, lower-scoring affair than a free-flowing shootout. It is the kind of game where every goal feels heavy, and a single good or bad bounce can swing how the final score looks without turning it into a wild track meet. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Ottawa Senators versus Vancouver Canucks. The Ottawa Senators head into Vancouver on Monday night to take on the woeful Canucks at Rogers Arena. The Canucks sit on 46 points with a record of 19-36-8, and they are 27-35 against the spread while their totals sit at 34-26 for overs. They have been dreadful on home ice at 6-19-5 and a bit more competitive on the road at 13-17-3, but they still sit 8th in the Pacific Division. They are also 10 points adrift at the very bottom of the league table, which says plenty on its own. Ottawa comes in far better position with 71 points and a record of 31-22-9. The Senators are 28-34 against the spread and their totals are 36-26 to the over, but the bigger story is how they actually look right now. They are 14-10-5 at home and a strong 17-12-4 on the road, parked 6th in the Atlantic Division and fully involved in a tight playoff race in the East. These teams have already seen each other once this season, a matchup that finished 2-1 for the Senators on home ice. Before that, though, Vancouver had done well in the head-to-head, taking 5 of the previous 6 meetings. So there is a bit of recent revenge on the Ottawa side balanced against a longer trend that used to favor the Canucks. The current form swings things heavily toward the visitors. The Senators are 7-3 in their last 10 games, and if you zoom in even closer, they are 7-1-2 across their last 10, which shows just how often they are at least taking something from games. They have won 3 of their last 4, and their attack has been buzzing with 19 total goals in their last 4 outings. They have scored 4 goals or more in 4 straight, which is exactly the kind of surge you want from a group trying to climb the standings. The Canucks, on the other hand, are stuck in a tailspin with 8 straight losses and defeats in 8 of their last 9 overall. They have given up at least 5 goals in 3 of their last 5 games, and their home ice provides little comfort, with only 6 wins all season in Vancouver. They are the second worst offensive team in the league and the worst defensive team, allowing 3.71 goals against per game, which is a brutal combination. Ottawa knows this game matters. The Senators are in the thick of the playoff race, so dropping points against a last-place team that is in free fall would sting more than usual. Brady Tkachuk is the emotional heartbeat of this group, and you can pretty much expect him to have his team pushing hard from the opening face-off. Honestly, with one team chasing something meaningful and the other stuck in a deep rut, the expectation is a focused and professional effort from Ottawa from start to finish. Given the road strength of the Senators at 17-12-4 and the home futility of the Canucks at 6-19-5, the matchup tilts toward the team that has been winning games and scoring freely. We have already seen Ottawa handle Vancouver once in a tight contest, and now they face an even weaker, more deflated version of the Canucks. Everything about the current form, the motivation, and the home and road splits points toward the visiting side handling its business against a much weaker opponent. As our first pick for this matchup, the Ottawa Senators money line is our full game side pick. Offensively, the Canucks are averaging 2.56 goals per game and are converting 18.5% of their power play chances. Defensively, they are giving up 3.71 goals per game and killing just 70.3% of their opponent's power plays, which means they spend plenty of time chasing the game in their own zone. The Senators bring a much livelier attack, averaging 3.37 goals per game with a power play that clicks at 23.5%. On the back end, they allow 3.19 goals per game and kill 73.1% of opposing power plays. Those numbers paint a picture of a team that can generate a lot of pressure but is not exactly airtight, which can sometimes invite swingy scores. Here is the thing, though, the raw averages do not always tell the full story of how a game might flow. Vancouver's offense is one of the weakest in the league despite that 2.56 goals per game figure, and they often struggle just to get into dangerous areas, especially against better structured teams. Their power play is middling, and with the fewest wins at home and so many games where they look flat, there is a real chance they struggle to hold up their share of the scoring. Ottawa's recent offensive burst, with 19 goals in 4 games and 4 goals or more in each of those, can look like a signal for a high-scoring night on its own. But in matchups like this, a stronger team that grabs a lead can shift into a more controlled, simple style, especially on the road. If the visitors get out in front, they can shorten shifts, lean on their structure, and quietly drain the clock rather than turning it into a track meet. The earlier meeting between these teams finished 2-1, which offered a small glimpse of how the matchup can settle into a tighter rhythm even when one side is clearly better. Vancouver's weak offense and struggling power play, combined with a road team that can clamp down once it gets comfortable, suggest a scoring environment where chances are limited enough to cap the final total. You might see stretches where it feels like the Senators are firmly in control without the scoreboard spiraling too far, especially if the home side cannot generate sustained pressure. Taken together, the statistical profiles and the way these teams tend to play against each other point toward a game that lands on the lower side of the scoring spectrum rather than exploding with goals from both benches. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.